Hey, it's Tito, Jeff Thitoff here with your Buckeye Blitz. Thanks so much for tuning in on FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. Lots to get into today. Download the FanStream Sports app. It's free for Apple and Android users. Take advantage of that. You get round-the-clock programming. So many great new shows we're adding. Lots of good things to already listen to, but you can have that app for free. Also go to FanStreamSports.com. Follow me on the X at FitHappens, and especially after this show, because you might disagree with something I'm saying. I'd love to hear from you. It's at FitHappens, THITHAPPENS on Twitter. And the reason I say that is I've expressed these views on the radio, other platforms, and there's a lot of people that don't agree with me, so I'd love to hear from you. We're not going to talk about the National Signing Day for the college football because we got other things we're going to discuss, and we can do that a different date. But just kind of a Cliff's Notes version. Ohio State did okay. The top 5 recruiting class still. A couple of guys they missed out on I thought they would get. A couple of guys they didn't get that I didn't think they would get that they did get. But really, recruiting anymore, it's more PR than anything else because of the fact that the transfer portal, you can get guys who have college football. You have tape on them playing college football. And that's a better tool than having tape on somebody playing against high school kids who might be a freak athlete. You know, if you see an offensive lineman who's like 6'6", 310 pounds in high school going against guys a lot smaller, or a defensive lineman for that matter, they're going to look a lot better than they would against other people of their size. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the recruiting stuff just because I know that if there's they have a chance to add in through the transfer portal now, and that's what Ohio State's going to do. Again, more about that later. All right, the Michigan game. Ohio State played about as poor of a game as they could against Michigan on Saturday in Columbus, losing 13-10. They missed a couple of field goals that they should have made. Will Howard had a very shaky game as well. The offensive line did not do well in this game, and Ryan Day took ownership of this. I know that in the last 22 games between these two teams, whichever team has rushed for the most yards has won the game, which is now 4 in a row for Michigan. But it seemed like Ohio State tried too hard to force and show, hey, we're a power team. Ohio State's not a power team. They're a good running team, but they're not a power team. And they kept trying to run the ball up the middle against Michigan's strength. The only advantage Michigan had over Ohio State was the defensive line. They got a couple of studs there, and Ohio State kept running right into them. And that was frustrating to watch. They acknowledged that after the game. Like I say, he took ownership of it in his weekly press conference. He said the team came into the game as confident and loose since he's been at Ohio State. But as the game went on, the team got tighter. And so he said that they need to do a better job. They could have done a better job of getting the ball to the perimeter. The offense just wasn't working. So one of the trends in the game, when you get to the red zone, 5 times, only get 10 points, that comes back to me as the head coach. There's definitely ways, as a quote now, when you look back on it, there's definitely ways that we could have gotten the ball to the perimeter. It's the coach's job to put the guys in the best position to be successful. That didn't happen on Saturday. So he praised the defense. And he said the defense has been playing great ever since the Oregon loss when they gave up 32 points on the road in Eugene. But you could tell that he was calm. He was frustrated about that, and he took it all. He didn't blame anybody else. Now, my questions are, was this Chip Kelly calling the game? Was it Ryan Day calling the game? Was it Chip Kelly calling the game and Ryan Day overriding him? Regardless, this happened before with Ohio State against Michigan. They tried too hard to show we are a tough football team when Ohio State should have taken advantage of Michigan with some key players missing on defense in the defensive backfield. And Ohio State, with the great receivers they have and the very good quarterback they have, should have taken advantage of that. They didn't. They get the loss. I understand that now. There are a lot of Buckeye fans clamoring to fire Ryan Day. That's ridiculous to fire Ryan Day. I'll tell you why. First of all, if you decide to fire him like right now, and that's what some people were saying, do fire him now, make Hartline the interim coach, and see what happens in the playoff. You're going to lose recruits. You got guys with the transfer portal. It could really cause an upheaval within the program. And Day still has confidence in himself. I still have confidence in Ryan Day. The guy's 66-10. He is 47-1 against non-Michigan Big Ten teams. And they still could win the national championship this year. So all these people saying, fire Day. Let's let the season play out. And even so, I'm not, unless they get beat by 30 points by, say, Tennessee, I'm not ready to cut bait on Ryan Day. Day said he still has confidence in himself. He understands everyone's frustration. Here's another quote from the press conference. There's no way to defend losing 4 years in a row, but I know this. We're going to play as hard as we can in this game, meaning the playoff game. We're right there, and we got to keep swinging at it. He said Ohio State will also consider different options on the offensive line. He was asked also in the press conference, has it entered his mind to take, has he thought about taking a job somewhere else? He said, no, this is a wonderful place. I've got a great job. We've got a great way to make this a little bit better and go win the whole thing this year, and then figure out what went wrong and address it. So, like I said, he's 47-1 against other Big Ten teams. They went 10-2 this year, and they're in the playoff, competing for a national championship, potentially. They certainly, if they're in the playoff, they are competing for that. It looks like they will be in the playoff because nothing should change for Ohio State between now and what happens conference championship weekend. They might get bumped down a spot and may play on the road instead, but in all likelihood, they'll have a home game against Tennessee at the Horseshoe. And I still think Ohio State's one of the 4 best teams in the country. I know the loss to Michigan sucks. Michigan's a good team. Not a good team. Michigan's a mediocre team. I should say good team. Michigan's a mediocre team. Got to make sure I catch myself on that one. They're 6-5 coming in. They are a mediocre team, and Ohio State should not have lost that game. That being said, Buckeye fans, and this is a criticism now, it's an observation, I should say that, the Michigan game does not mean as much as it used to. And I'm just talking big picture. Now, I grew up a Buckeye fan from the age of 5 years old, 6 years old, I guess, probably when. So the Ohio State-Michigan game, it was like, I remember going to Ohio State-Michigan watch parties with my parents and how intense it was, how crazy people got over this game. The Ohio State-Michigan rivalry was built up a lot of the times because for years, the Big Ten would send only one team to a bowl game. If you didn't go to the Rose Bowl, you weren't going to a bowl game. Then they softened that up. A lot of times, Ohio State, Michigan, that's what it's for. You're playing for a chance to win the Big Ten championship and go to the Rose Bowl. That was the pinnacle. The Rose Bowl used to be the pinnacle for a Big Ten football team. Make it to the Rose Bowl, win the Rose Bowl. That's the highest year ago. That natty might pop up once in a while. Not that often, though, if you look at it, because Michigan didn't win their first one until recently. But going to the Rose Bowl and winning the Rose Bowl was all you strive for. Now, usually you had to go through Michigan if you're Ohio State and vice versa. And so that's why the game kept growing and growing in importance. It's still an important game. I hate Michigan. I hate losing to Michigan. But big picture, would you rather be right now 7-5 Michigan with 4 Ohio State wins in a row and playing whatever bowl game they're going to play in, or would you rather be 10-2 Ohio State, possibly hosting a playoff game and still in competition for the national championship? Yes, ideally, do it all. Win all your games, including Michigan, beat the hell out of Michigan every single year. But just comparatively now, the college football game has changed dramatically over the last few years with NIL, and it's a lot more competitive across the scale of college football, across the scene of college football. So I'm not saying the Michigan game doesn't matter. I'm not saying that at all. It does matter. Yes, it matters. But you can't deny that the importance of that game, the importance of the outcome of that game does not mean as much as it used to the overall success of the season. Because Ohio State, despite losing that game, they're still likely to host a playoff game. Michigan's not going to be in the playoff. So, and if 10-2, a loss to Michigan and hosting a first-round playoff game, if that's the floor for this team under Ryan Day going forward, if that's the floor, that's a damn good floor. Alabama's got 3 losses this year. They still could miss the playoff. That would be a floor for them now, too. I'd rather have Ohio State's floor than many, many other teams' floors. All right, and people also talk about this. Fire Day. Who do you get to replace him? Be realistic. Who can you replace him with that you are confident will be better than Ryan Day? You know, I ask that question. The answers you get a lot of time are Mike Vrabel. Vrabel's not coaching Ohio State. Vrabel's coaching the NFL. He's not going to coach college. So throw Vrabel out, throw him to the side. He's not going to do it. Bring back Urban. I don't think Ohio State wants Urban back. Urban did not leave. Grant, new administration in. Urban didn't necessarily leave on the best of terms. And Urban, he may have said he wants to come back if it's open. Urban's not. I don't think Urban will get hired. I don't think that's realistic. Someone said Tressel. Please. Tressel doesn't want to deal with NIL. Then someone mentioned Nick Saban. No, Saban got out of the game for a reason. He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to coach in this college football world, and I can't blame him. Matt Campbell, Iowa State. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. I'm not sure those guys are upgrades over Ryan Day. And also with the fallout potential with Ryan Day, if they fired Ryan Day. The fallout from that, what could happen as far as with an mass exodus of players leaving or something like that, that's a very real possibility. Someone said Brian Hartline. Look, Hartline, and also they mentioned Eddie George, coach at Tennessee State. I don't think Hartline or Eddie George are ready to lead this kind of program as a head coach. So until somebody can tell me a viable candidate that they are confident will be better than what Ryan Day is doing, I don't want to hear the talk about fire Ryan Day. What do you want, Lane Kiffin? Lane Kiffin, every time Lane Kiffin leaves somewhere, they go on probation somehow. Or they on probation anymore in the NCAA, it doesn't happen, but there's always some kind of trouble left behind whenever Lane Kiffin leaves. So I don't see where there's one there. All right, let's transition to the CFP now. CFP talk. Now I got that off my chest. As it stands right now, there are 4 Big Ten teams in the CFP. Officially, the rankings right now are Oregon at 1, Penn State at 3, Ohio State 6, Indiana 9. But because of the way the bracket's going to work with the 4 highest rated conference champions getting the first 4 seeds and drop Ohio State back. So right now, the current bracket will give Oregon, Texas, SMU, and Boise State the byes. The matchups will be the projected Big 12 champ, Arizona State, at Penn State. That'd be a fun one in Happy Valley, seeing Arizona State go there in December. Also, with the winner facing Boise State, that seems like a pretty easy path potentially for Penn State. Alabama at Notre Dame, with the winner playing SMU. I'll take Alabama or Notre Dame in that game as well. Indiana at Georgia with the winner against Texas. I think Georgia would roll Indiana. Indiana, a fraudulent top 5 team. And also then Tennessee at Ohio State with the winner facing Oregon. Like I said, I still think Ohio State is one of the top 4 teams in the country. I think they could beat anybody. They could also get beat, I know, by any team in this field, but that's the way college football is now. With some of the games you've seen in the regular season, that's possible that could happen with anybody. 10-2 Miami's the highest ranked team out. Alabama the last team in. But depending, like if, say, Clemson and SMU's game, what happens in that game, the ACC championship, if Clemson wins it, I don't know if they drop SMU completely out, but Clemson would have to come in. And then in that scenario, Alabama would be out. So Alabama and even schools like Ohio State are rooting very hard for SMU, so would not adjust their seeding anyways. BYU is another team that could have a beef, I guess, but they're not going to make it. And there's a lot of talk about the CFP and the selection process, but I don't have a problem with it. I'm excited about the college football playoffs coming up on December 20th and 21st. Excited about Ohio State hosting maybe a Tennessee team in the horseshoe. That should be fun as well. And now I'll just close with this. Understand that this is the 4th time in 6 years that Ryan Day's been in the playoffs. Right now, there's only two head coaches active in college football that have won national championships. That's Kirby Smart and that's Dabo Swinney down in Clemson. There are no other active coaches who've won it. So I'm not saying that gives you a reason to let Day off the hook for the Michigan stuff, but I'm not going to cut it. Look, if Ryan Day were to leave, they'd have a $37 million buyout, and who knows what else where that money would come from then, and does it then come out of the NIL money and the collectives and all that, and then does it hurt Ohio State going forward? Oklahoma once hired Gary Gibbs. They once hired a former college football champion head coach, Howard Schnellenberger. Failed miserably, set the program back. Michigan hired Rich Rodriguez, hired Brady Hoke. Notre Dame hired Charlie Weiss, hired Jerry Faust, the high school coach. They hired him back in the early 80s. Those things set their programs back. What else? Alabama hired Mike Shula. Look at the other schools that had bad hires that set them back. Nebraska hasn't recovered from some of the bad hires they made. So, Texas has had some bad hires also. But that's my whole point about this is you better damn well make sure if you're going to fire Ryan Day, the guy you're bringing in is going to be better. And I'm not confident there's a better guy out there right now that could go that we feel like could do better than 10-2 and in the playoffs. I don't see it out there. And I don't think that it's right to get rid of Ryan Day at this point, and even after the season, after the playoffs end. He does a lot of great things in the community, really does. Represents university well, has done so much for the cause for mental health in Columbus and he and his wife have donated a lot of time and money to that cause. So there's a lot going on with this guy that goes beyond the football field. But even so, 66-10. We can't get rid of Ryan Day right now. A couple bad years, maybe so then, but not. This was a disappointing year to be 10-2 and lose to Michigan. Disappointment so far, but not worth getting rid of your head coach. All right, that's it for me. Off my soapbox. I'm Tito, Jeff Thitoff. Follow me on the X at ThitHappens. Would love to hear your take on that as well. Lots of people interact with me on this already. I'd love to get your take if you want to follow me on the X. Also, make sure you download the FanStream Sports app. It is free for Apple and Android users. And we'll talk against the Ohio State Buckeyes basketball men's team. The bad loss to Maryland. We'll give you an update on the women's team also. And also, we'll talk signing day here coming up next. All right, that's it. Take care.